Peace and love, family. Welcome to another powerful discussion with your sister, Dr. Maat. You see the title, family. Our Judge Joe Brown, weighs in on this whole Diddy situation, right? So he's going to give us his legal perspective on what's happening with Diddy. But before I bring the great judge on, I want to make a couple of announcements, family. Make sure that you head on over to MELTREK365.com to get your MELTREK films and books today. Remember, MELTREK is a project. Okay, is a project created by Black people for Black people, for Black children, particularly to teach our children our history from our perspectives. And as you know, they are banning books on Black history. They're banning Black history courses and doing all kinds of stuff, rewriting Black history. But you know what? Let them do what they've always done. It is our responsibility to educate our children on our history. And so make sure you head on over to meltrek365.com to get your Meltrek films and books today. We recently dropped Meltrek episode 3, Exploring the Ma'afa. All right. And so if you come to meltrek365.com and you scroll down, if you click on the icon or the thumbnail for Meltrek episode 3, even Meltrek episode 1 and 2, it'll bring you to this Meltrek 365 Vimeo TV page where you can download each of these videos. All right. Also, family, make sure that you get your child enrolled in the UACI Summer STEM Camp. This is an African-centered STEM camp for our babies. Seats are very limited. We only have 30 slots. And frankly, I mean, it's a group from California. They're taking probably 10 of the slots already. So make sure that you get your child enrolled in this camp. Each child will receive a Google Chromebook and a STEM camp. I'm sorry, and a STEM kit. The camp will start on July the 8th and end on July the 19th. It's 100% virtual. It will operate from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So family, make sure that you get your child enrolled in the UACI Summer STEM Camp. Last but not least, family, make sure you get your son enrolled in the ASAFO training camp. All right. This is a camp for young boys, right, that assist them with their manhood development. They work with the men day in and day out. These young boys the core area of focus for these young boys are character development, critical thinking, physical fitness, self-defense, and more. So make sure you head on over to asafocamp.com to get your child enrolled or get your son enrolled in this camp. Family, we also are creating and launching the Agoji camp, which is going to be the sister camp to the Asafo camp. And that camp is going to focus on womanhood development and young girls. Our target ages for both camps are 12 to 14. But if you have a mature 11-year-old, we will allow him or her to participate. So make sure that you get your children registered. We only have 20 slots for each of these camps, the Agoji and the Asafo camp. So head on over to asafocamp.com, click the registration link, and get your son enrolled. And we're actually going to roll out the website for the Agoji training camp sometime in June. And both camps are going to start the first Sunday in July. So that's July the 28th, and they'll operate from July the 28th to August the 3rd. All right. So enough of that. I just want to make sure that each discussion that I have, that I'm highlighting solutions, because a lot of times we talk about the problems in our community, but we don't talk enough, in my opinion, about the solutions. And let me also be clear. I don't feel that we support, right? That we support these solutions enough. Ashe. So make sure that family, that you're sharing these solutions and that you're supporting these solutions. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our great judge, Judge Joe Brown. Judge Joe Brown, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing all right.
Excellent, Judge.
I trust you are as well.
Excellent. I sure am, Judge. Always happy to, be among you. Every time you come on this platform, we learn a great deal of information from you. So it's always, an honor to just hear you, to be, present, even though it's a virtual presence, but nonetheless to be present with you. And so, Judge, I reached out to you. I think it was your niece the day before yesterday. Then I spoke to you yesterday. And I said, Judge, what's going on with this whole Diddy situation? I mean, they keep saying there's lawsuits. He's getting hit with a lot of lawsuits. From a legal perspective, what do you think is going to happen to him? His house then got raided. So we're like, what is going to happen to him legally? What are your thoughts on that, Judge?
Personally, in terms of priority of interest, that situation is way down at the bottom
I don't blame you, Judge.
because actually it's totally irrelevant to black folk in one sense because it doesn't have much to do with our day after tomorrows in terms of him,
Right.
but in terms of the legal principles that might be involved, there may be a connection. My first thing is the contrivance between the FBI and Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm.
Homeland Security has absolutely no jurisdictional portfolio over this, and if anybody does, it's the FBI. So why was Homeland Security the lead federal agency in the service of the search warrants? Search warrant was served on the West Coast, one was served on the East Coast down in Florida. That one strikes me as peculiar because on the same property in Florida, there is another mansion the individual in question has, and they only searched one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They came out with a small box worth of items seized and a small trash bag. What is it that they get out of there that way? And they wind up having a meeting with the individual, Diddy, at the airport. They let him go, and he gets on an aircraft and he goes to an island that does not have an extradition arrangement with the United States. Seems to me that what is going on is an effort to secure perhaps incriminating evidence or embarrassing evidence against other select individuals, which raises the specter of the institutions of the United States being used not for the good of the people, but for the benefit of certain select individuals.
Mm.
Also, we have a situation with him where, let's just put it this way, it's a continuation of what I call the complete mess amongst the citizens of this whole country, and black people in particular, of having no heroes these days. We have distractions. We have basketball players, football players, we have entertainers uh, who don't do anything above and beyond the call. They just make a lot of money clowning around and putting on a show that distracts.
Mm-hmm.
We have no heroes, haven't had any in a long while, or at least none that we push out in the public. I don't see anybody in the public eye that I would classify as a hero except one or two people. And I'd put Dr. Cosby in that category. I would put some local people that are unsung in that category. And maybe a few conscientious individuals here and there, but most of the ones that they hold up for us to uh, emulate are not only not heroes, they're generally detestable sellouts.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's embarrassing to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're saying they're trying to look for incriminating evidence or embarrassing evidence, but it's
Not
not like.
on him, on
Mhm,
other people that are deemed more important. Let's put it this way.
mhm,
The thing I'm hearing, and they're just allegations, uh, concern freak parties that some people had a taste for attending, and it would be embarrassing for those people to have that known. So they were securing I imagine, the taped evidence or the recorded evidence so that these people could not be embarrassed. There is a laundry list of people who are supposed to be influential today that really don't do much for the public, so they have to maintain their created images and make their money and exercise their authority on behalf of the rainbow cult. So I think they're being protected. But
Mm.
anyway,
Mm-hmm.
other than that, shame, shame, shame on any clown who's a grown man who has to comport himself with young girls because that's unmanly. There's no excuse for it, and it displays some mommy issues and an inability to deal with somebody who is trying to move things along in a coherent direction. By the
Mm.
way, sisters, you have some great power. You just don't know how to use it these days,
Mm.
at least not for the good of the people.
Mm.
I heard a lecture one time long ago. It concerned the Mau Mau in Kenya, led by Jomo Kenyatta. Jomo Kenyatta dictated to the women who were supporting the Mau Mau, and he also got to the preachers, slapped a few of them around, did in a couple of them so they couldn't pimp from the pulpits like they were prone to do. And he
Mm-hmm.
says, you will die if you do not convince your female parishioners and congregation that if they want to do their part, they'll see to it that their men join the Mau Mau. In other words, if the men don't join the Mau Mau and show necessary manhood, don't give them any.
Come on, Judge. Talk about it.
So they got a mass influx of new recruits to the Mau Mau. Then they needed encouragement to do the right thing. And the pulpit pimps were conditioned and they started preaching, if your men folk don't act according to their position, then don't give them any either. Now, women have great power if they know what to do with it, but most of the time they just throw it away out on the street twerking, which does absolutely nothing except put a bad rep on the name of black femininity. So
Yeah.
it's not a pretty thing.
Yeah.
And the other point is, too, I'm going to get off to something that isn't particularly black, but I'm going to use Sports Illustrated for this. It
Mm-hmm.
started 60 some years ago when they had all of these hyper fit male athletes in there, track stars, football players, baseball players, boxers, wrestlers. In other words, the fittest of the fit. Well, they started putting in the comparable young women. Great fitness. They looked great in their bikinis. Now you get big 250-pound critters that couldn't run from their front porch to the end of the driveway, and they're talking about that's the new trend. But you don't see them featuring male couch potatoes who've got their thumb action together and can play some video game well. You still see fundamental male excellence, physical excellence, athletic excellence, but for some reason, somebody's trying to move the image of black and white and brown and red and yellow women away from comparably fit women to something that would be the counterpart of a male couch potato. So it's a
Okay.
little embarrassing and it's insulting actually because it's part of this new thing where nobody is supposed to achieve. Everybody is supposed to mediocre, piss poor, failing at it, get a participation ribbon. Everybody is entitled to have their feelings protected instead of learning how to protect their own feelings and do those things that are meritorious so they won't have to worry about it. It's a
Mm.
bad trend. We got a
Mm.
punk culture. We've got little bitch boys running around in the hood that are hood rats that don't understand masculinity. They don't deal with the duty, honor, and obligation of being accountable, of providing, of making where they live a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, ethics, a cause, and making where they live a place of public peace, dignity, and order. They want to tear it down, act like wild animals out of control, civilized heathen, whether they're male or female. And we've got a new development that I call the girl-rilla. The
Mm,
girl-rilla is not a female that knows how to act like a woman because she's
mm,
not taking care of womanly responsibilities. And she certainly hasn't graduated to the state of being a lady.
mm,
And whereas throughout human existence, women have walked in and somebody said, "Hey man, chill. Somebody's mama's here. Hey man, chill. There's a lady present." It doesn't work that way now because the female is probably the most profane, wildest acting, most violent creature in the room these days.
mm,
We have to stop that. There are obligations that we have not only to ourselves, but to the people that depend on us, the circle that surrounds us. And that gets back to what I've been talking about Diddy. Part of this problem is because there is a glorification and a justification for this dysfunctional behavior that is popularized. This started about a half century ago, 50 years ago,
mm,
when I was a young adult. And what it was the people who hated what they were and wanted to be anything but what they were.
mm,
They started saying that you had no responsibility, no accountability, and essentially they were cowards. They did not have the balls, the cojones, the guts, the intestinal fortitude to do what they needed to do. And they were coasting on the accomplishments of others, the last group of heroes we have. Now we have pimps like, I call them chicken enemies, like Sharpton and Cory Booker and Bragg in New York, and mammies like Fannie and um, Georgia, and we'll come back to that. That idiot that got uh, sentenced to whole house arrest, which I think was an absolute travesty.
mm.
So she needed to be in jail. That woman up there in Baltimore that was the head prosecutor up
Oh, yeah, I
there.
saw that yesterday. She got 12 months on home detention. Yeah.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Wesley Snipes got 3 years in a penitentiary for his tax preparers failing to fill out a complete set of forms, even though he overpaid his taxes. I know that because I testified in the proceedings that I was there when IRS had a refund check for over $250,000 for overpayment of
Mm,
his taxes. So he got 3 years for three misdemeanors for failing to fill out enough forms. And she gets this after perjuring herself on multiple forms, going through two trials, and then failing to meet the necessary guideline requirements of showing contrition, remorse for committing unlawful acts, promising never to do them again. And she finishes up her remarks with, "This isn't over," after she's claimed that the judge who gave her this slack that she shouldn't have was an incompetent nincompoop. She complained about white supremacy, even though it was a black prosecutor, a black chief investigator for IRS, and a mostly black jury that convicted her on two occasions, but she's claiming white supremacy. She's one of these mammies. See, we not only have house Negroes who are rewarded for keeping black folk down, occupied with frivolity and BS, we have those who were made wenches, bed wenches, and if they were good, they promoted to the top floor so they could deal with more of what they deal with. And then when they got gray hair in at their roots, they started getting made mammies and put in charge of running the niggers on the plantation.
mm,
It is a mess. So we have to deal with revising what we look at is meritorious. We have to start teaching the young males to be young men so they don't act like little sissy boys. And I'm not even talking about the gay ones. I'm talking about the
Right, right, right.
sissies that don't know how to deal with duty and honor and dealing with what they ought to do and taking care of their responsibilities. And if you ask one young man, what are you doing? Yo, I got me 4 ladies working hard for me. 2 of them got crazy checks. One of them get AFDC and the other one got a JOB. They takes care of me. What do you do? Well, I make some smooth out. In other words, you a male hoe. Huh? You just a hoe. You a gigolo, fool. They don't get
Mm,
it because nobody taught them. There's no fatherhood in the hood, and the hood is gone to hell. So the same thing happens in the hallways. You got a bunch of little perverted punks running around that never got taught how to deal with bullying. They don't know how to deal with manhood either. And that thing that's in all of us comes out and it leers at them in the dark and in the daylight, and they get to acting crazy. And what is it that leers at them? Uh, what did you have yesterday? Did you have anything that was meat, fish, or anything like that? I bet you did. We kill everything on this planet that we want to kill, and we have to refrain from killing too much of it, including ourselves. We are the apex predator. We
mm.
kill better than anything in this planet's history. If they had T-Rexes, I can see it. I say, Smithers and I were out in the bush, and this T-Rex approached clandestine, and it was a close thing, but I put both barrels where it should go, where they should go, and that is on my wall here. It's a magnificent beast, isn't it? So what time is this when we running around trying to punk out and deal with being cowards where we can't even stand up and go toe to toe with somebody? And when you watch the fights that they have on video, they're swinging wildly like
Yes, Judge. I've
little
seen it
girls
going
used
like
to.
this. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my
Like,
gosh, you don't even know how to throw a
bam.
you don't even know how to
Yeah.
throw a punch. It's like
Bam.
it's yeah. It's it's
You
it's
know,
it's crazy. Judge, let me ask you this. You said we don't have something you said a while ago. We don't have any heroes. Why
no,
do
we
you think
don't.
that's so? Do you think it's because
Well,
when
we
they
punked out.
neutralize?
No,
Okay.
we punked out. Nobody neutralized anybody. We
Mm,
neutralized ourselves. 50 some years ago, they started propagandizing dysfunction,
mm,
black exploitation.
mm,
Hollywood was going broke in the face of color television, or at least the movie studios were. So they came up with a new idea. Instead of having 2 movies every Thursday and Sunday, no matter how well they sold, and you didn't have to pay but 50 cents to see one. You could walk in anytime you wanted. They got the bright idea of let's start having one movie that'll last as long as it can, and people will still go pay for it, have to walk in on time and leave on time and charge 3 times the price. And oh, by the way, the Negroes are they calling themselves black these days? So I think it's Afro American. Oh well, they want to see themselves, so let's make a lot of movies about them, and they'll pay readily to go see it. But what are we going to show them? Well, they don't want to really see all of this stuff about make yourself better. Let's go to the lowest common denominator. Tommy, don't you have some connections? What is it they are all about? I think, George, it's pimps, hoes, drug dealers, thieves,
mm.
burglars, robbers. Yeah, that'll work. Let's do that. And by the way, it'll keep them from causing trouble. So you got black exploitation, Black Caesar, where the hero was a drug dealer and a hitman. Then you had that sleaze ass Superfly crap glorifying the sale of cocaine. Rod O'Neal had his hair pressed out long instead of wearing a afro, and he was part bald. And then before that, you had uh, Fred the Hammer Williams playing Black Caesar. And then you got Pam Grier in there, and she started being Foxy Brown. And let's see, the plot line for most of those was somebody's brother or sister or cousin got done in by the drug lords or somebody, so they decided to get revenge. And then it became the sister became the drug queen, and she got big boobs, and she'd be low cut. She'd get knocked down 8 or 9 times a movie, and one or both boobs would pop out, and then you'd get a beaver shot, and they'd have the mandatory 4 naked white women wet with a towel across one shoulder, somehow or another contriving to just get out of the shower and walk in front of the no acting black folk sitting on the couch. Yeah, man, we got to make a move. Yeah, brother, it's power time to make a move. You know, and you're going, and if you're on the scene, you see a bunch of Jewish directors tell them a little bit more blackness, a little more blackness. Yeah, that's it. How do you pronounce that, Tommy? Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. Well, hell, nobody will pay attention. You say it enough, and they'll start talking that way anyway. So, yeah.
So, Judge, you don't. Judge, you don't think it had anything to do with ending the end of the civil rights movement and the Black Power
the
movement?
civil rights movement was dead. Black people killed it because we went militant. It was the most embarrassing thing in hell to be in high school or college, and if you went to someplace East Coast, West Coast, Northwest, hey man, they kicked your guy's ass last night, man. That was cold the way they beat the shit out of him. Don't you get embarrassed, man? They just sit there and they don't even fight back, man. Fool, MF, open your mouth one damn time I'm putting my foot in it. Or my fist anyway. Yeah, man. Well, I'd be angry too, man, if all my people punked out down on their knees, man, while one of our rednecks was beating him across his head until one of our other rednecks was feeling guilty about it. Yeah, man. Watch y'all fight, man. So by the time 1965 was hitting, you know, people were burning down cities, and they just got tired of it. And it wasn't these boule church going folk that were trying to run everything. It was ordinary black folk, working class black folk, black students. And see, there is a big difference between then and now. Most of the militancy and aggression came out of the students, and they weren't running around begging like they are now, whining about, oh, we got to have black studies. And then half the black studies deal with really gay studies, because you're not talking about black folk, you're talking about rainbow cult stuff. And the point is, the students don't even know how to deal with it. We only ask once, so we're going to ask you once. And that stuff there in The Godfather will make you an offer you shouldn't refuse, you know, or you see. And we went to jail. We burnt some stuff up, tore some stuff down, jacked some people up. We weren't nonviolent. And we were backed up by our parents and grandparents, a lot of whom had served in Korea, World War II, and World War I. And it was the grandparents that were in World War I, not World War II. That was your dad. Or he might have been in Korea and the Nam was hitting. So if you didn't have that 2A classification, you got scooped up and got an all expense paid tour of hot, sunny Vietnam, where you could watch the creepy crawlers slither through the mud and put webs through the trees up close and personal. So, yeah, people stayed in school to keep that 2A. So if you wanted to find the brothers, they were in school getting a college education. You want to find the brothers now, they're getting ignorant, and half of them are running around trying to defeat themselves. This is the 21st century, but what do you hear? Man, we need some land, man, so we can grow some fruits and vegetables, man, and take care of ourselves and separate ourselves from these poisonous white folk, man. And like, you want to go back to the old Stone Age and scratch farming that doesn't work for anybody on the planet anymore, except maybe a stretch down in the Amazon jungle someplace. and you want to give up the opportunity to learn science, technology, engineering, and math. And I like that program, STEM. That's what that's about,
Yes,
that
sir.
you just got through advertising. So this is new. They're not big, huge, well-financed mega corporations that deal with stuff like farming. Even white folk can't make farming work
Mm.
unless they're part of a corporate entity. Now, we need to get in on the ground floor and start creating some dot-com revolution type situations where we can be the leadership because we can be intelligent. There are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us who are, but we don't glorify those. We glorify the pimps, hoes, drug dealers, fat hogs washed up, fat whales washed onto the beach naked and flapping butt cheeks that are big enough to feed. Well, Biden was talking about his uncle got ate up by cannibals out in the South Pacific and insulted the ambassador. I won't even insult the country by mentioning it, but they'd feed a whole lot of cannibals, which we have in the black community because we cannibalize our own community. We don't help it out, we eat it up.
Mhm. So, Judge, I mean, J. Edgar Hoover said that there won't be another black messiah unless we create one. So, do you think that the government is complicit in the reason why we haven't seen any
That
black
we make
heroes?
no,
Mm,
we make it easy.
mm,
By the way, J. Edgar Hoover was a black man. His parents got run out of Louisiana for trying to pass for white. And if you look at some old pictures of him, you'll see a rather effeminate looking high yellow black guy with some wavy hair. And that's how he started his career. He looked like a fancy boy that they still had called for back before World War One. So his assignment was to befriend the prostitutes in the New York brothels so they could get a handle on it. And that led to the Mann Act, which is what R. Kelly most recently got prosecuted under.
mm.
Diddy risked that too. And the other thing is they wanted to get the first black world heavyweight boxing champion, Jack Johnson, because he had a white
Mhm.
wife and a big entourage of white women following him. So the FBI was created to set up what was necessary to get the Mann Act, and they're the ones that arrested him. So the FBI couldn't even carry guns. So J. Edgar Hoover was looked at as a little third, fourth fancy boy for those who like boy booty. And he fit in well with the girls. So the main persecutor of black folk was a black man himself. Interesting. You can see that, by the way. The Smithsonian carries articles every now and then about that. History Channel does too. So
Mhm.
if you look at early pictures of him, if you are familiar with this, well, a few years ago anyway, Harold Ford Jr., who used to be the 9th District Congressman here in Tennessee, in Memphis, he and J. Edgar Hoover much resemble each other. But we think of J. Edgar Hoover as an old man with liver spots on rather than a gay young black guy who was hiding it. And he got a white lover who he made deputy director of the FBI, Colson. And J. Edgar Hoover blackmailed his way into being a head of the FBI because he worked in those brothels undercover talking to the prostitutes, and he knew who was coming in there, and he blackmailed them because most of them, 90%, turned out to have sexually transmitted diseases back then
Mm,
that they didn't have penicillin to treat.
mm,
So it was an interesting thing. So, no, J. Edgar Hoover didn't do it. We did it to ourselves.
mm,
What happened was we started looking at this, and I remember Superfly came out in Los Angeles about late 1971, early 72. And I went to Washington, D.C. about summer 72 to be an intern at a D.C. think tank. I didn't see Superfly in LA because I said it was ridiculous. And we were in the brother, we got to be down for the revolution, the movement, and we're not going to patronize, this kind of garbage trying to get us to act like damn fools and act
Mm-hmm.
counter revolutionary. But I remember my roommate and I, he was a lawyer too. I'd gone to high school with him. We were good friends. His brother's name is Ted Egan's.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, his assignment was working on reparations, and this was back 1972, 73. So it's nothing new. And we went down on 14th Street near 14th and U in DC, and there was this long block. So we drove around it. Superfly was playing there. There were black folk coming out of the front of the theater who had just bought tickets right there at the ticket counter, just slightly inside. They went to the right, to the end of the block on the short side, went down the end of the block on the long side, came right down the other short end of the block, and then another right up the long side of the block, and then another right to get into the movie finally. And they were out there waiting 2.5, 3 hours to see that garbage. And they started coming out, hey man, I gotta give me some of this cocaine, man. Yeah, man. That's some deep stuff, man. We gonna check this out, man. And it's like, you really don't want to do that. You need to focus so you can get yourself free. That's just a trap.
That's right.
And became a trap. So I talk to people now, and I am embarrassed when I talk to them because subconsciously they are giving me what I have seen 50 years of propaganda tried to put in them.
Mm.
Now, I specialized in propaganda at UCLA when I had political science. I had some other minors too.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a professor who actually was a visiting professor emeritus from the University of Moscow who had been in charge of propaganda for the Soviet government at one point. So I was getting briefed on how to do that. And I was taught that you can tell when your propaganda is successful when your targets start using the terms and the phrases and then the context that you've been trying to put in their heads. And we do. I saw it develop slowly
Mm.
over 50 years, but it's there. And we act like we've been well propagandized.
Mm.
One of the things we learned, and I'm not against reparations, as I said, Attorney Egan worked on reparations, wound up doing it through the UN too.
Mm.
That's 45 years ago.
Yeah, you said in the 70s.
And
Mm.
yes, and what winds up happening is it would be nice to get it, but when I hear that, just cut the check and everything gonna be all right. No, it's not.
Yeah,
We
yeah, no, no,
learned
no.
the hard way because the only way it is all right is when you make it so, not when you depend on somebody giving it to you. That's the difference between a child and an adult. An
Teach.
adult goes out and earns and makes, he's got his paycheck and the discretion. The child depends upon somebody feeding him, sheltering him, clothing him, and giving him what finance he has to pay for. When you're in that condition, you are not a free grown person. And what I see right now, one of our problems is we've converted our inner cities back into slave plantations. They just moved north for the most part. And unfortunately, there are no crops for the slaves to pick. They're just idle and they're getting paid by some people that are disgustedly getting tired of paying for non laboring slaves. And the people that work this don't even realize what's happening because it's going along with them and they too are losing their edge. The United States looks like Great Britain 100 years ago. Great
Whew.
Britain had the largest navy in the world. Nothing floated on it without the permission of the English Navy. They had the biggest empire in the history of the world. They were filthy rich, and now they're third class, third world countries, other than the fact that they still have a few decrepit leftover nukes. Now, that is a shame, and the problem is they got too effete. Everybody expected it to be given to them. Nobody was expected to do the hard work except the few, and then the whole thing went downhill, and now the U.S. is where Great Britain was, and the Chinese are grinning inscrutably, and they're going to take over. Go look in your kitchen and see if you can find much of anything, if you can, that's not made in China. I'm on an iPhone. This iPhone was made in the People's Republic of China, supposedly with some Japanese technology, which is a collaboration. And the next time you get a cell phone, if they have that, if you order one, ask for a tracking update. And like on iPhones and some other things you have, you'll find that they make 2-3 stops in mainland China before they leave and get transported across the Pacific. So it's kind of incredulous to sit here and watch folk give stuff away. We're in the Middle East, and Hamas is very upset, Al Qaeda and ISIS. We've got a problem in the south, northeast, northwest Pacific with China in the China Sea. And every day, thousands more people are added to the sum of military age Chinese, people from the Middle East, and other folk that don't like us, who don't have to worry about not having B-1B bombers to loiter over the area and drop smart bombs. They can walk across the border with all kinds of hardware, military grade explosives, training. They don't have to helicopter in, take a rubber boat from a submarine in. They just walk across the border with their goodies slung across their back, rolled up like maybe sleeping bags, and they get on a bus provided by the U.S. government and go wherever in the hell they want to, plant the explosives, and the next 911 won't even need hijacked airplanes. The explosive devices will already be put in place, and it'll be hell. Meanwhile, at most American harbors, they have these massive cranes to pick up the containers off the container ships. Damn near all of them are made in the People's Republic of China. And then a few months ago, they discovered they had these strange communication devices on them that can't be removed, that they don't know the purpose for. So, you know, it's like, hey, real nice thing, real bright. And we're getting, Richard Pryor used to have this joke album back in the 80s. It would be, they're getting some new ends, and you know, they stand around practicing saying the N word, and they're told, you know, you got it right when you get your ass kicked. But, you know, that's what's happening. We have problems in Chicago, but the idiot they have that's the mayor up there, one of these house boys, he's up there and he's making sure that they get the nice hotel rooms, they get the medical assistance, they get fast tracked into being employable. They're trying to register the fools to vote, or make it legal for them to register to vote. They're illegals. It's a crime for them to have entered the country the way they have. And it's also a crime to harbor, give them aid, protection, comfort, and assistance that so many in power are doing. And by the way, they should be prosecuted under federal law. So you think about it, and it just doesn't make any sense for us to put up with it. But
not at all.
We love it.
And Judge, and Judge, I just wanted to interject really quickly, because like you're just, I mean, you dropped a lot of facts just now of what's going on around us. And earlier you mentioned distractions. You were like, it's just a distraction. All of these different things that they're throwing in front of you. The Diddy Cassie. Oh, Kendrick Lamar had this big rap beef. The Kendrick Lamar rap beef is this. So while we're going like this, Judge, we're looking at, oh, Diddy and Cassie. Oh, it's another lawsuit. Look at
Yeah,
what's
you
happening.
got
Look at
it.
what's
That's
look at what's look.
all.
So tell I want you to get into.
Yeah,
So we're
well,
all it's all a distraction.
you
Yeah,
got
keep
it.
going. Go ahead,
You
Judge.
got it. See, you got it. That's the point. In other words, we are focusing on Diddy. Who gives a damn except for the bigger picture? And we don't even see the bigger picture. Because as
Oh,
soon as we get through dealing with Diddy, we got to watch Housewives of Atlanta, where these boule hoes go down there and act damn fools. They get coached.
mm,
And the executive producers are flamers trying to embarrass women, and these clowns down there going along with it. We pay attention to that, or we switch over as soon as we get through worrying about Diddy. We're up there stuck up in an NBA game. We don't make any money off of NBA games unless you get big time gambling in Vegas or something. So what's our point? Getting distracted. Meanwhile, all this other stuff is happening until it gets right up in your face, like in Chicago, and people are saying, "Oh hell no, this has gotten far enough. We need to take a stand. We let this creep up on us." Same thing with what happened in the Bronx yesterday. Um, AOC and part of her district had 30,000 people turn out to see Trump. At least a third, if not more, of the people that turned out were black. Then we had the Latino contingent, we had the white contingent. And people want to change off of that. People are up there, get Trump, he the boogeyman, he a racist. Well, I know for a fact, over 50 years worth of exposure, one of the worst racist bastards that's ever been in charge of anything is sitting in the White House right now.
facts.
And you've got mammies out there like Fannie Willis in Georgia. And by the way, there's a new breaking news moment about that. This witch got returned to office, and she's been doing a whole lot to oppress the people in Fulton County, which is a county that embraces a substantial part of Atlanta. Myself and Dana Cumberland, the real Dana,
Yeah, the real thing.
we have been investigating what's going on there, and we're in communications with a whole lot of people there. And Miss Fanny has been repressing them. And what happened today is Judge McAfee got reelected, and after dropping 6 counts a couple of months ago, he dropped all of the charges against Trump, ruling that the indictments were deficient, lacking specificity, and pending whether or not Fanny gets removed on appeal. She would have to go back and get new indictments if she can that comply with Georgia law, which she didn't follow. And then the other thing is there was a big hearing in front of the state legislature where the chief witness was a black woman represented by a black attorney. And what the bottom line was is she thought, help Fanny out by pointing out that quite a bit of money set aside for juvenile programs seems to have been misapplied or turned up missing. So she promptly got demoted from supervisor or director down to literally file clerk. And then when she said, well, there's more information here, she got fired. Perp walked out of the building by 7 armed people. And they've tried to ruin her because she caught somebody stealing. What's happening down there? All of this black, white supremacy is bullshit, because it's just flat out stealing, which is another reason why we don't have heroes, because too many people in positions are just using them to steal from the people, and
That's
most of
right.
their constituents are black. So white supremacy, How the hell are you going to have white supremacy when you are a constitutional elected official and there's nobody over you but the people you represent? So how do you claim white supremacy when you're in charge? You don't have to answer to anybody. How do you sit there and claim white supremacy when what happened is you and your boyfriend cooked up a scam so both of you could get rich off of kickbacks? Everything he submitted had to go through her to get approved, and there was nobody over her to gainsay her about the approval. So without the case even being set to trial, he got paid $720,000 and could have made, had she kept her mouth shut, somewhere between $3 and about $8 million that they could have split under the table, which is bad. And then they did cash transactions to launder money. And the churches are sitting up there endorsing her. And she admittedly had an affair with the previous DA, as who was her boss. And she promised when she campaigned on numerous occasions that there would be no more sexual misconduct or in the office. But yet she turns out to be shacking with a guy who is, as her father put it, a disc jockey, and maybe he had a government job during the day, and then while she's there, she's maneuvering to claim she had all of these problems with people coming up threatening her, yet there are no police reports on that, so she could get another place. And that's so she could not only have the DJ, she could sneak with Wade, which made it worse because they were officers of the court and that wasn't supposed to happen. And she promised no more sex with employees and bosses going on in her office. And she's the boss and she's having an affair with somebody she works for, and they were laundering the money that was coming back. So Wade got paid, Fannie got laid, and the taxpayers got played. You know, so it's got a bad.
Judge, let me ask you this, Judge. Do you think that the immigrants are being brought in or allowed to come in to replace black folks? Your thoughts
They're
on that
not.
idea?
It's irrelevant whether they replace black folks. What's happening is this: if you filled out a federal form, the first block says Hispanic, non-Hispanic.
Mm-hmm.
If you are Hispanic, it says skip to block so-and-so. If you're non-Hispanic, it says Caucasian or white, black or African American, Pacific Islander, Native American, Amarin, whatever, and it goes on. So they break up all of the people who are here into racial and ethnic groups. When it comes to Hispanics, the racial group is not asked for, it's just the ethnic group in terms of what's your native language. Are you considering your native language? So that's building up a group, and that's building up a large ethnic minority, because in about 10, 11 years, there will no longer be a majority ethnic group in the United States. So what's going on is, see, these people who are Hispanic, technically most of them could break it down into being white. There are some black ones. There are some American Indian ones who are Hispanic. There are even Asian ones. Now, in all candor, I have a now deceased stepmother who was Asian, Filipino, but she was classified as Hispanic because she was from the Philippines, and that's considered a Spanish enclave. So she was classified as Latino or Hispanic because she spoke Spanish as a native language, but she was Asian, mostly Chinese and Japanese. So you see, they're building up this big group. So what they're doing is building up another group to become part of a coalition they're talking about, and they want to fast track them. The other thing is under Article 1 of the Constitution. This is something that I've very seldom seen discussed. It
Mm-hmm.
says every 10 years there shall be a census conducted, the primary purpose of which is to apportion representation in the House, that is, the House of Representatives in Congress. So, what happens is these people will be counted in California, New York, perhaps Illinois, will either gain a congressman or congressperson, whatever in the hell, or keep from losing some. But these people nominally won't be able to vote, but then maybe they can. And see their impacts from what they're doing in California, Illinois, and New York on the rest of the country. If you fly a lot, you know that there is this announcement that TSA is putting out that basically midway through fall this year, if you don't
Mm.
have a driver's license with a star in the corner, you ain't getting on an airplane unless you got a passport.
Mm.
So why is that the case? That's because California and New York decided that they were going to pass out driver's licenses to known illegals because they said it's safer. That's crap. So the point that they're trying to pull up is another point they're trying to pull up and put off is, and we need to pay more attention to this,
Mm.
getting these people to be able to vote in federal elections by sneaking. See, they want to set up a situation where they can vote in local or state elections. But every single state and locality, when they have local and state elections, if there's a concurrent federal election, they put it on the same ballot. So they can't get stuff straight as it is now. So when these people walk in to say, in broken English, if they can even speak that, they'll say, I want to vote for the state election. Are they going to go get a separate ballot, set the machines up to restrict to the state elections, local elections, or are they going to have the same ballot damn near everybody else in there is going to have, which include the federal positions? It'll be a nightmare, and they can't even handle what's going on right now.
Mm.
So we're finding too, by the way, another aspect of this where while we're distracted with Diddy and all of this nonsense, they've been taking away your rights to free speech. And we have social media, but in my theory, social media is actually a way to restrict free interchange of ideas, not promote them. What happens is you get the people dependent upon social media. They get very dependent upon it. They lose track of how else to communicate freely with other people. And then the entities that operate social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, used to be Twitter, but not so much now, it's X. What they do is then shadow block and restrict and outright censor. So what they wind up doing is restricting and diminishing effective communication. So we have to be very vigilant and we have to pay attention to what's going on. These people are playing chess and
Come
we're
on.
out there trying to learn how to play checkers.
That's right, Judge.
They're thinking 4, 5, 6, 7 moves ahead, and we can't even focus on the immediate next move.
Check this out, Doc. I mean, Judge. Just to kind of just to plus one what you're saying. I was invited to the White House summit to talk about equity in STEM education. They're having conversations about what STEM education is going to look like 30 years from now. So, like you just said, while people are looking at Cassie, Diddy, the Kendrick Lamar rap beef, they're already planning how STEM education is going to look in this country 30 years from now. That's what they're doing. And that's what the conference was about. And so it was at the White House. Some people were at the White House. Some folks were at the Ronald Reagan International Trade Center because it was an overflow. Everybody couldn't go to the White House. So I was at the Ronald Reagan International Trade Center in DC. So just to give credence to what you're saying, we we worried about what's going on now, and they're already 3 decades, this is what STEM education in this country is going to look like. And so I just wanted to give the people that example. So, Judge, you were dead on. And I want to thank you for all of your time and all of your wisdom. But we can't end, Judge, without talking about your barbecue sauce. We have
Yeah,
to talk
right
about your
behind me
barbecue
here.
sauce.
Looking good, ain't it, for an old
Looking
man?
great. I love it. I love it.
And
Talk to us
see,
about it, Judge, where we can
yeah,
find it.
it's good. You can get it either online. Just think Judge Joe Brown Barbecue, JJB BBQ. Ed.com on the end. You can order it online. We have various packages. We've got hot and mild sauce, hot and mild seasoning. We've got chicken links, hot and mild, smoked and raw. We've got beef links, hot, mild, smoked, raw. We've got Beyond Beef, strictly veggie links, which taste like real meat, hot, mild, etc., etc. We've got recipes and everything else. And also, you can order on Amazon. And if you've got Amazon Prime, the shipping is free. Now, Amazon Prime is probably the best deal if you've got that, because the shipping cost, particularly back east, per one bottle, the shipping costs actually are more than the bottle of sauce. But if you get 3 bottles, you gain on it. And if you taste it, you'll like it. I guarantee you, it's not crap. I've been working on it for 40 some years. And Beyonce's personal chef, Chef Damon, is involved in cleaning this stuff up and contributing. So if you want to taste it as applied in a certain version and you're in Los Angeles,
Wow, that's hot.
go to Dee's Original Takeout Grill on the corner of 79th and Western down in South Central. It's across from a big church. And you can sample it. There is beef, pork, poultry, duck, chicken, turkey, fish, goat, stuff like that, greens, and all kinds of other stuff that they have in the place. Tiffany Haddish is an investor. We've got a sister, Michelle Dukes, who runs a distillery, and she's got one hell of a smooth bourbon. It's on the level of Blanton's, Booker's, Knob Creek, Bullet, Jack Daniels, Black Label, or Gentleman Jack. It's called Poppy's, Papi apostrophe S. It's good stuff. It's a recipe that her bootlegging grandfather came up with down in Mississippi. We've got the only female black owned meatpacking plant certified by USDA operating out of Compton, California, that puts the stuff up. So we've got a good thing. It's Black
Beautiful.
Enterprise.
Beautiful.
And yeah, we also have a television and motion picture production entity known as Celebritunity. You can check out a SWAT English.
Mhm.
He's already done some stuff for BET. And you've got Rod Thompson, who handles the business aspect. He used to play football at UCLA, as did I, years before he did. But, you know, that was just in passing. 56, 7, well, 50, damn, it's been that long, 59, 58, 57 years ago. So, you know, it is what it is. But try it. You'll like it. You can impress your friends and kinfolk. And I know you have something to go, so I'm going to end this up on my part. Hi, bye, and gotta go. This has been Judge Joe. Catch me when you can. I'm the one that ran. So
Yeah.
get back. I give no slack when I get into my act. Brown has come to town. Put your favorite body part near to your radio or your communication device and feel the flow. If you see me in person, reach out, touch me to see that your senses deceive you not. I have become manifest in the flesh, as promised and prophesied. If you look at my feet, you see they don't touch the planet Earth. I float, I fly. I am the one that comes through, and I prophesy. So if you need some relief from stuff you don't understand, don't worry, I still roam about the land. Just check with Judge Joe as he goes into his act. I step back and I leave you on your attack to life. Be back soon.
Ah, let me drop a bomb.
Fire! 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 Fire!
That was fire, Judge.
That's not new. That's from 58 years ago. The late Dr. Cliff Stewart, a Grand Master of Martial Arts, the current Dr. Ron Chappelle, a Master of Martial Arts, and Dr. Joe Brown ran a playground at Trinity Avenue Elementary School. We set the stuff up, took things over, convinced the community to help. We had a radio station, low power, and I was the DJ. But anyway, we had two interesting students that you probably have heard of. One was the late singer Barry White,
Oh
who
yeah.
at the time was a skinny 12-year-old on the playground. And we had a 14-year-old volunteer who became, unfortunately, the last person executed in California. That was Tookie Williams, who seems to have done something about co-founding the Crips out in LA, which used to be known as something else back when. But he was a smart kid. We got Barry's mama to go along with getting him out of the hood, but Tookie's mama still wanted that check. We couldn't get him out of the hood, so he got stuck down in the swamp. He just became the baddest alligator in the swamp. Unfortunately, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the governor, didn't commute his sentence to life after he wrote these award-winning children's
Books. Yeah,
books.
children's books.
Yeah, he was teaching what we taught him, but I think the reason Arnold didn't do that is because he wanted him dead, since he and Tookie used to spot for each other, pumping iron at Gold's Gym out in Santa Monica.
So Tookie and so you were talking about the radio station initially. So did they have something to do with the radio station or?
No, they were kids. It was three young black men in our early 20s. Cliff was the youngest playground director in the LA City school system at the time. And he got the two of us, he recruited us. So we worked on the playground as directors. There was Tracy Reed, the actress, who volunteered, and Vivian Parker, who was one fine rascal. She's still around. So is Tracy. She volunteered. There was Celestis Blair, who was a high school friend of mine who played football at UCLA for a while. He came out there, and we couldn't get anybody else to help. But every Wednesday, me, Cliff, and Ron, the three of us would take 200 kids from first grade to seventh grade to movies in downtown LA. We'd get in free of charge. And we young men had absolute discipline and authority going, and patrons would always comment, "My God, you've got children in here, all of these kids. We never knew they were in here. They were so quiet."
Well behaved and well
Yeah.
behaved. Well, Judge, I gotta run. I do appreciate the discussion and all of the wisdom and again your time and your energy. Thank you so much, Judge, for coming through. You gotta come through again. Don't be a stranger, Judge. All right, you take care. Peace and love. All right, family. So you heard from the great Judge Joe Brown. If you're coming in and you didn't hear, once this live stream is over, go back, rewatched it. The judge dropped a lot of great information. Okay, so you want to go back and watch it, family. Also, I do notice that there's some folks watching on Instagram and they're asking questions. They're like, Dr. Maat, where's this being, live streamed from? It's being live streamed through StreamYard on multiple platforms. So it's on my Instagram page, it's on my Facebook page. But if you want to participate, in the chat and you want your comments, you want me to show your comments on the screen, make sure that when I do go live, even if you're on Instagram, head on over to my YouTube channel, dr.maat, and participate there. Okay. And make sure that while you're on my channel, that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live, you will be notified. Also, family, make sure that you thumb up the video before you head on out of here. Thumb it up, thumb it up, thumb it up. And also share this video. Sharing is caring. We want each one in the 21st century. And how do we do that? We do that by simply sharing the link on our social media pages. Family, make sure that you head on over to MELTREK365.com. MELTREK MELTREK365.com. MELTREK, like you're going on a Star Trek, but a MELTREK, a melanin journey back in time to learn our history, to learn about our history and our culture and our achievements. Head on over there to get your films and your books. You know, right now they're banning books that teach Black history. They're firing Black, not even just Black educators, but any educator who's teaching Black history. They're getting fired. They are banning Black history classes. And so, you know, I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do, but it's our responsibility to teach our children our history. So head on over to Meltrek 365, get the books, get the films. If you scroll down, you have an option to purchase the digital download. We also have the DVDs in the shop. But if you click on any one of the digital downloads, it'll route you to the Meltrek TV where you can download all of the films for your children. This is a must-have for all children, family. Also, make sure that you get your children enrolled in the UACI Summer STEM Camp. This was the camp that Judge Joe Brown looked at, and he was like, oh, this looks good. I don't know if you all noticed during the discussion, Judge Joe Brown said, oh, this camp looks good. Yeah, it's a virtual STEM camp that operates from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to start on July the 8th and end on July the 19th. So, family, make sure that you get your children enrolled in the camp. All right, it's an African Center STEM camp for an hour and a half. They'll be learning about Blacks in STEM. Another hour and a half, they'll be working on STEM concepts. The focus for this summer will be coding. We only have 30 slots left. Now, I don't even want to say 30 slots left. We only have 30 slots available and like probably maybe 15 slots left. So you want to make sure you get your child enrolled in that today. Last but not least, family, make sure you get your son enrolled in the ASAFO training camp. You can head on over to asafocamp.com and enroll your son in the ASAFO training camp. It starts on July the 28th, ends on August the 3rd. It's a 1-week character enrichment, manhood development camp. Okay, for boys between the ages of 12 and 14. All right. Yes, the camp is in Baltimore, but guess what, parents? Sometimes, man, as a parent, you got to make the sacrifice. So if you're wherever you are, if you want your child to be in this program, come kick it in Baltimore with us for a week and let your son go through this program. And also, last but not least, family, make sure that you get your daughter enrolled in the Agoji training camp. Website is coming soon. Both camps will run concurrently, and I look forward to being one in the number on this August of 2024. Those children are side by side graduating, and we're celebrating them on August the 3rd. So anyway, family, with that being said, I'm out of here. All right. Have a beautiful Black-tastic day. If I don't go live the rest of the weekend, I'll probably end up going live probably tomorrow, Sunday. But if I don't go live, family, have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. I know this is Memorial Day weekend, and Memorial Day is a holiday, a holy day that was established by Black people. It started in South Carolina, but that's a whole nother conversation. So I may go live on Memorial Day. So I may not be live tomorrow and Sunday, but I'll definitely be live on Memorial Day to break down that history. This is a holiday or a holy day that was started by us. I know they say daughters of the Confederates, the Confederate soldiers. I think it was some type of society or organization called Daughters of the Confederate or something like that, Confederate Daughters. They try to give credit to them, but it was Black folks. It was Black folks who started Memorial Day. That was the first Memorial Day. The first Memorial Day celebration happened right there in Charleston, South Carolina. And I actually went there and verified it myself. So anyway, family, I will be back live more than likely Memorial Day weekend. But head on over to YouTube, hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live, you will be notified. Peace and Black African excellence.